I poisoned a roast beef with just enough arsenic to make them puke their guts out for a week. But not enough to kill, yet. That's what happens when your own blood sells you out for a quick buck, framing you for embezzlement you didn't commit while they siphoned your life's work dry. And as I watched them retch into the silver gravy boat that night, I whispered, "Welcome to the family business. Mom and Dad." Retribution served medium rare. It started 6 months earlier, in the sticky heat of a Nashville summer, where the air hangs heavy like regret you can't shake off with a cold beer. I'm Charlotte Hayes, 32, the black sheep who clawed her way out of that godforsaken trailer park in East Tennessee to build something real, Hayes Creative, a digital marketing firm that turned heads in the Southeast. We weren't some Silicon Valley unicorn. But damn if we didn't hustle, me and my team of 5 misfits in a loft space downtown, cranking out campaigns that made brands bleed money into our pockets. I'd poured every dime from my first shitty graphic design gig into that place, mortgaged my soul to the bank for the lease, and skipped meals to pay the freelancers. It was mine. My proof that I wasn't the disappointment they always said I was. My parents, Harlan and Evelyn Hayes, were the kind of folks who peaked in high school and never admitted it. Dad drove trucks cross-country until his back gave out, then settled into griping at the VFW bar about kids these days. Mom waitressed at the same Waffle House for 30 years, her smile as brittle as the hash browns she slung. They raised me and my brother, Tommy, on resentment and ramen, preaching that family sticks together no matter what, even if it meant covering for each other's sins. Tommy was the golden boy, 3 years younger, with that easy charm that got him out of juvie at 18 after boosting cars for kicks. I was the grinder, the one who actually read the fine print on those community college loans. The betrayal hit like a freight train derailing in slow motion. It was a Tuesday in July. The kind where the AC unit wheezes, like it's on its last breath. I'd just landed a fat contract with a Nashville-based craft beer company, 6 figures for a rebrand that could put us on the map. Tommy showed up unannounced, his pickup rattling into the loading dock like an old bad habit. He was sweating through a polo shirt, the kind that screams entry-level sales, and clutching a folder like it was his ticket out of Mom's basement. "Char, I need your help," he said, sliding into my office chair like he owned it. His eyes darted to the door, that telltale twitch he got when he was scheming. Tommy had bounced from job to job since high school, real estate flips that flopped, a stint selling knockoff supplements online that got him sued. Lately, he'd been consulting for some shady outfit in Atlanta, something about alternative investments. I should have known better than to bite. He laid it out. His bosses needed a clean front for some marketing push. Nothing illegal, he swore, just funneling funds through a legit business to streamline taxes. In exchange, Hayes Creative gets a cut, enough to expand to Atlanta ourselves. I laughed at first, thinking it was his usual pipe dream. But the numbers he showed me, they sang. 20 grand up front. More if it scaled. I was drowning in debt from a bad hire who'd ghosted with client files. This could have been the lifeline. Stupid me. I signed the paperwork. Let him borrow access to our accounting software for integration. Told myself it was family helping family. By week's end, the money hit my account clean, crisp wire transfer. I paid the electric bill, treated the team to barbecue at Martin's. For once, things felt like they were turning. Then the feds knocked. 2 suits from the IRS, badges gleaming under the fluorescent buzz, hauling boxes of my records like I was Al Capone. Embezzlement. Money laundering. They had emails forged, but good, traced to my IP. Invoices doctored in my name. The beer contract? Frozen pending investigation. My loft? Seized as potential asset. The team scattered like roaches. One girl crying as she boxed her desk plant. I spent that night in a holding cell. The concrete bench digging into my spine. Replaying every late-night chat with Tommy. He'd played me like a fiddle, using my login to rinse dirty cash from his Atlanta crew through Hayes Creative. And when the heat came down, he pinned it all on me, his big sister, the responsible one. The kicker? Mom and Dad knew. Tommy confessed it over Sunday pot roast. Tears in his eyes, begging them to fix it. They didn't call the cops on him. No. They lawyered up for him. Hired some cut-rate firm out of Chattanooga with their savings, the ones I'd sent home every Christmas since I could afford it. And me? They let the state appoint a public defender who smelled like menthol cigarettes and defeat. I beat the charges, barely. The feds couldn't prove intent beyond a reasonable doubt, and my accountant tore holes in the timestamps. But the damage? Hayes Creative was a corpse. Clients bailed. My credit tanked to sub-basement levels. And I was crashing on a cousin's couch in Knoxville, job hunting like a dog in heat. Tommy slunk back to Atlanta, starting fresh with a new gig. Mom and Dad, they sent postcards. Prayers. Honey. Family first. 6 months of scraping by on freelance scraps. Rage simmering like moonshine in a still. I'd stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m., plotting. Not violence, I'm no thug, but something surgical. Something that'd carve out their hypocrisy and leave scars. That's when Evelyn called, voice syrupy as pecan pie. Family dinner. Char. Your dad's turning 65. Come home. We've got news. I knew it was a trap the second I pulled up to the old ranch house on the edge of town, the one I'd helped paint white every summer as a kid. The gravel crunched under my tires like bones snapping. Inside, the air smelled of pot roast and lies, Mom's recipe. Slow-cooked with carrots from her garden. Dad at the head of the table. Tommy to his right. All three grinning like they'd won the lottery. I slid into my spot, the vinyl chair squeaking a protest. So, Charlotte, Dad started, carving the meat with deliberate slices. We've been talking about your situation. Mom passed the rolls, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Your family. We can't let you struggle alone. Tommy chimed in, fork midway to his mouth. Yeah, sis. We've got a plan. That's when they dropped it. They were taking over Hayes Creative. Or what was left of it, the name, the domain. The scraps of goodwill I hadn't sold off in desperation. Dad had networked with a buddy from the truckers' union. Some investor type sniffing around Nashville startups. They'd folded into a new venture, Hayes Family Holdings. Mom handling admin, Dad oversight, Tommy running ops. My ops. My baby. You're joking, I said, voice flat as the mashed potatoes. Dad leaned forward, gravy dripping from his chin. It's for the best. Girl. You bit off more than you could chew. Time to let family step in. We're taking over your workspace, Mom added, like it was a gift. The loft's still yours on paper, but we'll handle the lease. You can. Consult. Part-time. Consult. Like I was some washed-up advisor instead of the founder who'd bled for it. Tommy smirked, that same twitch in his eye. I saw it then, the full circle. They'd watched me burn, waited for the ashes to cool, and now swooped in to claim the embers. All while pretending it was love. I pushed my plate away, the roast suddenly tasting like ash. You framed me. Let me rot. And now you want my company? Silence. Thick as the humidity outside. Dad's fork clattered. That was business. Charlotte. Tommy made a mistake. A mistake. I laughed. Bitter as black coffee. He stole from me. You covered for him. Took my money to bail him out. Mom's hand fluttered to her throat. We had to. He's our son. And I'm not? The words hung unspoken. A ghost at the table. Tommy shifted. Look.
Char.
Water under the bridge. This is a fresh start. For all of us. Fresh start. Like erasing the indictments. The nights I cried into a pillow so the cousin wouldn't hear. Like my life's work was just a stepping stone for their redemption arc. I stood, chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard.
No.
Dad's face hardened, the lines etching deeper. Sit down.
Girl.
This ain't a discussion, but it was. And that's when the hook sank in, the decision that had split me down the middle. Make me question if I was the villain in my own story. I didn't scream. Didn't throw the wine. Just smiled. That tight-lipped haze grin we'd all perfected for funerals and foreclosures. All right, I said, voice steady as a loaded .38. Family first. Let's toast to Hayes Family Holdings. They bought it. Clinking glasses like we'd sealed a deal at the Opry. Tommy's relief washed over him like cheap bourbon. Mom's eyes softened, patting my hand as if she'd won me back. Dad grunted approval, diving back into his roast. I excused myself to the kitchen, claiming dessert prep. And that's where the plan crystallized, cold, calculated, with a dash of that southern spite we'd all inherited from Grandma Hayes, who once burned a neighbor's barn for borrowing her mule without asking. Arsenic. Not the cartoon villain kind, but the real deal, rat poison from a hardware store in town. The sort that's odorless, tasteless, and builds up slow if you dose it right. I'd read about it in some true crime podcast binge during those Knoxville nights. The ones where insomnia was my only friend. Chronic exposure, nausea, cramps, hair loss. The works. Lethal in high doses, but titrated low? A week of hell. Maybe 2. Enough to make them regret every forkful of betrayal. I ground the powder fine as confectioner's sugar, stirred it into the gravy boat while the oven timer ticked like a bomb. Heart pounding, palms slick. I plated the pie, apple, Mom's favorite, untouched. When I carried it out, the dining room glowed under the pendant light, rain pattering the windows like impatient fingers. To new beginnings, I said, pouring coffee black as their souls. They ate with gusto, oblivious. Dad slathered extra gravy. Tommy mopped it up with rolls. Mom pecked at hers, fretting about calories. I sipped water, watching the clock. Conversation flowed. Wedding plans for Tommy's girl, some barista from Knoxville. Knocked up accidental. Dad's big investor meeting next week. They talked over me, past me, like I was already a footnote in their empire. By 9 p.m., the first signs hit. Dad belched, excused himself to the bathroom. Mom frowned at her stomach, blaming the butter. Tommy laughed it off, but his color drained like bad moonshine. I cleared plates, humming an old Dolly tune, the irony twisting like a knife. Y'all all right? I asked, all concern. Fine, Dad grumbled from the hall. Too much rich food. I left around 10, hugging each stiffly, promising to sign the papers tomorrow. Drove back to Knoxville in the downpour. Radio blasting outlaw country. Adrenaline crashing into something darker. Guilt? Triumph? The line blurred. That first moral skid where right and wrong smear like wet ink. Next morning, the calls started.
Mom.
Voice thin. Harlan's sick. Charlotte. Puking all night. By noon, Tommy texted, "What the hell? Feels like food poisoning." I feigned worry. Drove down with Gatorade and saltines, playing the dutiful daughter. The house reeked of Lysol and regret. Dad was curled on the couch, pale as cornbread left too long. Mom hovering with a cool cloth. "Doctor says it's probably the roast," she whispered, eyes accusatory. "You sure you cooked it right?" I met her gaze, unflinching. "Followed your recipe to the letter, Mom." That night, as they dozed under quilted comforters, I slipped into Dad's study, the one with the lock I'd picked as a teen to read his hidden Playboys. There, in the bottom drawer, the folder, Hayes Family Holdings docs. Drafted by the same Chattanooga hack who defended Tommy. Pages of legalese. My signature forged in places. The loft lease transferred like it was theirs to give. And buried in the addendum, a clause letting them liquidate all intellectual property if the venture tanked. My campaigns, my client lists, stolen twice over. Rage boiled fresh. I pocketed my phone, snapped pics of every page. Back in the guest room, I emailed them to a buddy in Nashville, a PI with a nose for fraud. "Dig," I typed. Quietly, the days blurred into a toxic haze. They worsened, hair shedding in the shower, fingers trembling on forks. Urgent care visits, blood work that raised eyebrows but pointed to gastro issues. Tommy accused the Waffle House. Mom eyed me sideways.
Dad.
Stubborn as ever. Powered through, barking orders from his recliner about the deal. I played nurse, dosing them subtly, more arsenic in the chicken soup I brought, laced with just enough to prolong the agony without tipping the scales to our panic. By day 4, Tommy cracked first. He cornered me in the garage, sweat beading despite the chill, eyes wild. "This ain't right.
Char. We're all getting sick."
You know something?" I leaned against his truck, arms crossed. "Like how you knew about the feds coming for me?" He flinched. That charm cracking. "That was business." "I told you." "You lied." The words hung, rain drumming the tin roof. "Use my company to wash your dirty money. Let me take the fall while Mom and Dad footed your bill with my checks."
He swallowed.
Adam's apple bobbing. "They made me. Said if I didn't, we'd all go down. Family."
Char.
It's always been about protecting the family. From what? Me? I stepped closer, voice low. "You flipped on your own blood for a payout. Now they're flipping on me for the scraps." Tommy's face twisted. Guilt. Or calculation. Hard to tell with him. "Sign the papers.
Get your cut."
We move on." "Or what?" I pressed. "You poison me next?" He laughed.
Hollow.
"Don't be dramatic." But I was. And, in that moment, staring at the brother who'd shared my DNA, but none of my burdens, I saw the antagonist clear. Not just him, but the whole rotten core. They'd flip again. I knew, use the sickness as leverage. Sue me for sabotage if the PI turned up dirt. Decisions piled up, each more controversial. Keep dosing? Confess and beg mercy? Or escalate? Burn it all down? The PI called that night. Your folks? In deep. That investor? Tied to the same Atlanta crew Tommy ran with. Shell companies. Fake LLCs. They're not saving your firm, they're flipping it to launder more. My hands shook as I hung up. Betrayal layered on betrayal. A family's secret festering since Tommy's first hustle. And me, I'd borne the first crime. The frame job. Thinking loyalty would save us.
Now.
With arsenic in their veins. I was the monster. Or was I the mirror? Reflecting their greed back at them? Crisis hit on day 6. Dad collapsed mid-sentence. Ranting about the birthday cake Mom baked, laced unknowingly with my final dose. Ambulance wailed up the drive. Lights strobing the wet oaks. Our docs pumped stomachs. Ran tuck screens that finally lit up, elevated arsenic levels. Intentional poisoning, the cop said later. No pat out. Eyes on me. Family dinner.
Huh.
Mom sobbed in the waiting room, clutching my arm. Why? Charlotte? We were trying to help. Help. The word curdled. Tommy paced, phone glued to his ear. Whispering to someone in Atlanta? I sat silent, the room spinning with fluorescent hum and regret. The cop leaned in. You got a motive. Yes. Hayes. I met his gaze. Calm as a Tennessee river at flood stage. Ask my brother. That's when the flip happened, the first real lurch toward climax. Tommy stopped pacing, face ashen. What the hell?
Char.
You know why, I said, loud enough for the nurse station. Tell them about the money. The frame job. The holding scam. Mom gasped.
Dad.
Hooked 2 and 4 in the next room. Groaned through the curtain. The cop's pen scratched faster. Tommy lunged, grabbing my collar. You bitch. Security peeled him off. Chaos erupted. Accusations flying. Mom wailing, stop it. Both of you. The PI's evidence hit the cop's inbox mid-interrogation, emails, transfers, forged SIGs. Tommy spilled then. Crumbling like wet cardboard. The Atlanta crew. The laundering. How Mom and Dad pushed him to borrow for me. Then covered it when it blew. They said she'd understand. Family sticks. The room fractured. Cops hauled Tommy out in cuffs. Mom collapsed. Screaming denials.
Dad.
Weak from the drip. Croaked from his bed. You poisoned us. For this. I stood over him. The beeps of monitors a grim metronome. You poisoned me first. Took everything. This is me responding. But as they wheeled him away for more tests, doubt crept in, the controversial core. Where revenge tastes like bile. Was I saving my legacy? Or just dragging us all into the abyss? Readers would split here. Hero avenging betrayal. Or daughter turned destroyer. No clean lines. Just the gray of blood ties stretched to snap. The hospital corridor stretched like a fluorescent purgatory. Linoleum squeaking under my sneakers as I trailed the gurney. Nurses bustled. Charts flapping like accusations. Mom trailed behind. Mascara rivers on her cheeks. Clutching her purse like a shield. Charlotte. Please, she begged. Voice cracking. He's your father. I muttered. The word slipping out unbidden. It hung there. Controversial as a lit match in dry grass. Did I mean it? Or was it the arsenic talking? That slow burn of toxicity mirroring the one in my veins from months of suppressed fury? They stabilized Dad in ICU. Charcoal slurry and chelation therapy flushing the poison. Tommy? Booked on federal holds. Old charges resurfacing like zombies. The Atlanta crew ratting him out in a plea deal the feds dangled like bait. The cop, Detective Ruiz, a stocky guy with a mustache that screamed Nashville PD veteran, pulled me into a side room for round 2. Coffee sloshed in styrofoam, bitter as the truth. Walk me through it. Hayes, he said, recorder whirring. The dinner. The gravy. I laid it out, not everything. Not the doses in the soup or pie. Just enough. The rage. The family scam. How I'd suspected tainted meat from the market. Omission's a sin. But confession? That'd make me the villain outright. Ruiz nodded, jaded eyes seeing through the cracks. Sounds like a powder keg. But poisoning? That's attempted murder territory. Manslaughter if it stuck. I corrected. Lawyer shows paying off. I wanted them sick. Not dead. He leaned back, chair creaking. Why not just sue? Go civil. Because family doesn't do courts clean. The words tasted like lies. Truth was, the courtroom would have dragged it public. My failures, their excuses. Tommy's charm turning juries. This, private hell, intimate as a backstab. Ruiz let me walk. Pending labs, but the damage rippled. News vans camped the ranch house by dawn. Locals whispering, Hayes poison plot over gas pumps at the Shell. Mom barricaded inside, fielding calls from cousins who picked sides overnight, half calling me a monster, half cheering the truth coming out. I holed up in a motel off I-40, the kind with vibrating beds and roaches for roommates. Scrolling X for the viral threads, Family Feud Nashville. Armchair therapists debating if I was justified vigilante or sociopath in heels. The climax built slow. A storm front rolling in from the Smokies. Day 8 post-dinner. Dad rallied enough for visitors. I went. Against every screaming instinct. Because that's the Hayes way. Poke the bear till it mauls you. He looked shriveled in the bed, tubes snaking like accusations. But his eyes, steel sharp, the trucker who'd stared down blizzards. Get out, he rasped. No hello. I pulled up a chair anyway. We need to talk. The holdings. The loft. He coughed, phlegm rattling. You think this fixes it? Trying to kill us? I didn't, liar. You stole from me first. We saved you. His voice rose. Monitors beeping protest. That firm? It was sinkin'. Tommy said. Tommy lied. I gripped the rail. Knuckles white. You all did. Covered his ass with my blood money. Mom hovered in the door. Silent witness. Dad's gaze flicked to her. Then back. The flip came then. Lightning quick. Your fault.
Girl.
Pushin' too hard. Actin' like you were better than us.
Better?
The word ignited. I was. Built something from nothing. You leached off it. He laughed. Weak and wheezing. Family shares. Always has. Not when it's theft. I stood. Voice echoing. Sign it back. The papers. Or I tell the feds everything. How you knew about the laundering. Pushed Tommy into it. His face purpled. Blackmail now? That's your legacy? Mom stepped in. Hands wringing. Stop. Harlan.
She's right. We
went too far. The room froze. Mom's confession, soft, broken, cracked the facade. Dad's eyes widened. Betrayal fresh. Evie, you side with her. She poisoned us.
Harlan, but we.
We deserved a reckoning. Tears streamed. I covered for Tommy. Forged those emails myself. Thought it'd teach her to share. Teach me? Like I was the selfish one? The revelation hit like a twist knife. Mom. The enabler. The quiet schemer.
Not just bystander.
But architect. Dad gaped. The golden family crumbling under her words. I staggered back. Had I poisoned the wrong villain? Sirens wailed outside. Another complication?
No.
Just transferred to a specialist. But in that charged air, decisions cascaded. Press charges against them? Walk away. Let karma's slow grind finish? Or the nuclear option expose it all? Torch the remnants of Hayes' blood? I chose the split-the-sides path. The one that'd leave readers arguing ethics over eggnog. I'm dropping the revenge, I said, voice steady. But the cops? They'll hear about the forgeries. The laundering. All of it. Dad's face crumpled. Fear. Not fury. Mom nodded. Resigned. Do what you must. Charlotte. We're sorry.
Sorry.
Too late for bomb. But enough for fracture. I walked out, the door hissing shut like a guillotine. The twist landed 2 weeks later. Arsenic flushed. Tommy pleading guilty to a reduced sentence, 5 years. Probation after. Mom and Dad, immunity for testimony. Flipping on the Atlanta crew like rats from a sinking rig. The feds reclaimed the dirty money. But the holding stocks? Shredded in a plea bargain. Hayes' creative reverted to me skeletal.
But mine.
I relocated the loft. Rehired 2 old hands. Started small freelance gigs. No family strings. Ending? Not tidy. Dad passed 6 months on, heart gave out. Doc said stress-related, but we all knew the poison lingered. A ghost in his arteries. Mom moved to Knoxville, crashing my couch uninvited, making amends with casseroles and apologies that stuck like humidity. Tommy wrote from county. Proud of you.
Sis.
Fresh start. I visited once. Through plexiglass. His eyes hollow but scheming still. Family, he asked. I hung up without answering. Readers debated still. Did I win? Or just trade one poison for another? Revenge tasted like justice at the table. But soured in the gut, controversial. American tragedy where no one's hands stay clean.
Me?
I pour coffee black now. Watch the rain. And build again.
Slower. Warier.
Because in the South, grudges are heirlooms. And forgiveness? That's the real killer.